Okay, so it's time. You're ready. You've decided you're going to do this. Employ another team member. But how do you get it right?
Welcome to the Tradies Business Show, helping you get off the tools and into true business ownership, so you can spend more time doing the things that matter most. Now, here are your hosts, Warwick Bidwell and Michaela Clark.
And welcome again, everyone, to another episode of the Tradies Business Show, of course, Tradies' favourite podcast.
G'day, listeners. I'm Warwick, and that was awesome, Michaela. Bit assumptive there. It's Tradies' favourite podcast.
Of course it is.
Why wouldn't it be?
Yes.
We have a very high opinion of ourselves here at the Tradies Business Show.
We do. So I'm Michaela Clark from Tradies VA.
And I already told you who I am, but...
and where are you from, Warwick?
Tradies Business Toolkit.
There's the plug.
Thank you very much.
Now, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, we're going to talk about, as I alluded to in the intro to the show, we're going to talk about hiring staff. I hate calling them staff. I've really got into the habit over the years of calling them team. And as wanky as that may seem, and I gave a wank-free zone commitment at the start of this podcast, but we want team members. We don't just want staff to turn up and do a job. So, but how do you make that decision? It's such a problem, and I think so many tradies really struggle with this. They're either fearful of putting someone on for financial reasons, and we might talk about that in another episode about how do you actually make that decision as to can you afford it. But then once you've kind of gone, you know what, we just really need somebody, how do you get it right? Because I see so many tradies stuff it up.
Yeah, and I mean, they either do it too short, just don't put any effort into it because they're so desperate and they just take, the first two blokes that ring and have a chat to them.
Mm-hmm.
Or they just drag the process out and they can't make a decision and it just goes on and the good ones have gone by then, they've gone somewhere else. So I'm sure there's a formula to the right way to do it, and I'm sure you, Warwick, is going to show us.
Surprisingly, there's a process and a system. But you know what? This has been tested on my loyal subjects over the years.
And can I say I was surprised by the process. There's a bit of a step in there that we might have a heated discussion about.
We'll see how we go. We don't want to sort of upset too many people today.
Now, firstly, let's get this question's on everyone's minds. Do you do it yourself or do you get a recruitment company?
Oh, you've brought that one out early. Okay. You're baiting me here, Michaela. I'm a big fan of the DIY approach, I have to say. Now, I'm a committed home DIY guy myself. I love to stuff up the odd home project. But honestly, and you said this before we hit record on the show, Michaela, is nobody knows your business as well as you do. If you're listening to this show and you're a tradie business owner, you know your business, you understand your business, you know what sort of person you need in your business. I just think it's really hard to outsource that to somebody else. And when you look at the cost-benefit decision there, the amount of money that you might have to pay to a recruiter, and g'day to all the recruiting companies out there.
I think they're switching off.
I don't think we're going to get any on the show. But, hey, look, if there's a recruiter listening and you'd like to come on and debate this point with us, feel free. But I just think for the amount of money you'd invest in that, I would rather see the business owner actually learn how to do this themselves, because it's not something you're going to do once and never have to do again. The thing about building a team is that you'll have to replace team members over the time, and as your business grows, you'll need more team. So you might as well actually get good at this yourself. And it is a fairly simple process, and I have to say, although my clients are probably a little bit frightened and surprised when they learn what they're going to be doing, once they go through it the first time, 99% of the comments I get are, you know what, that actually wasn't so bad, and wow, we really do feel like we found the right person, or at least someone who's pretty close to that.
And I must say, the process that you recommend puts a lot back onto the potential team members to do some things and work beforehand that will show their commitment as they move through the process.
Yeah, so it's not enough that your resume says you've done this for 13 years and you've got these tickets. I mean, that's a starting point, and that's all it is. It's not enough. It's not gone are the days where you put a sign up in the window saying help wanted, or, we're hiring, and the first guy that walks past with a pulse gets the job.
I so hope I never have to be interviewed by you for a job.
It's fun, Michaela. It's really fun.
All right, so what's the first thing that any business or small business, trade business should do when looking for a staff member? Is it to write the ad? Is it to, ask people, do they know anyone? What do you suggest?
Well, usually the first place people start is they write the ad. And I'm going to suggest that's not the first thing you do, because you're going to stuff it up. Mm-hmm. If you start with the ad, you've missed a really critical step, and that's actually working out what is this person's job going to be. So write a position description.
Key point.
Yeah, it's kind of important to know what they're going to be doing. Now, you probably have that in your head, but it's really important to write it down and get clear about what's the job description. And more than that, how do they fit in with whoever else is on the team? It might just be you as the tradie, or you might have 5 other people that they need to work with. So you've got to get really clear about how they fit and what their key tasks and key responsibilities are going to be before you write an advertisement to attract that person, because really this is no different to advertising for customers. You're trying to attract a great person to your business, so you need to actually put a pretty good pitch out there so you get a great team member, not just the team member. Mm-hmm. So having that job description, really, really important, and that actually makes it a lot easier to write the ad, because that'll then help you, I guess, understand the sort of qualities that you want in that person who's going to join your team. Because there's a difference between a very qualified electrician and a qualified electrician who's going to be great with your customers and great with your other team members and work well with you, or plumber or mechanic or whatever your industry is. So it's not enough just to have the experience.
Right. And so once the job ad's written, what do we do with that job ad?
Well, you have to advertise it. Was that a loaded question? Sorry.
Is there any particular avenues that you suggest, Warwick?
Right, okay.
To advertise these days?
So, look, think about, in your industry, where do those team members hang out? What sort of stuff are they reading? You've also got to look at your bang for buck. I mean, things like Seek and My Career, those sorts of websites, they're pretty good. For the money, you get good reach. Most tradies are pretty tech savvy these days. I find lots of people are searching for stuff online, regardless of what level of education or anything they've had. So we tend to use online advertising sites, and rarely newspaper. I just don't think people reply to newspaper job ads anymore.
And there's a lot going through social media as well. Yep. Obviously, LinkedIn is a bit more focused on recruitment and professional industries, but certainly putting it in your social media, and if the person's already following you and they're interested already, in your company as well. So, and
ask your customers. I had a conversation with one of my clients recently, a motor mechanic, and I said, you know what, this is marketing. Tell them you're growing, and because of the popularity of your business, you've actually got an opportunity for a committed person to come and join your growing team. And they put that message out to their customers and got a few prospects back. But it just tells people that, hey, we're doing really well, and we've got room for some more great team members. So it is another opportunity to actually talk to your customers. So don't overlook that opportunity as well.
Cool. So the ad's gone out. People are starting to reply. What's the next step there? Is just get the first 5 that come in, give them a call?
Yep. Just the first one that
Episode's
lands.
over.
Just go, hey,
us.
look, this guy's got what we need. Ring him up. Give him the job.
Cool. Okay, done. I'm sure that's not
If only it was that simple, hey? And you know what? We laugh about it, but unfortunately, I've seen it done that way before, and it can work out maybe, but generally not the best strategy.
So I've got 100 resumes that have come in. What's my next step?
Oh, well, go pour yourself a stiff drink because you're in for some interesting reading. But you'll get all types. There'll be people that address none of the criteria of the ad, and some that address all of them, and it makes it quite difficult. So before you open that first attachment to the emails, or the first letter, if it's been sent in the old snail mail, is write yourself a couple of lists. Okay, really quick bullet lists. One is must-haves. And, these are maybe the 5 or 10 things that your next team member absolutely must have. They must have a certain license or ticket, or they must have experience with a particular type of machinery, whatever those must-haves are. And then you write yourself a list of the nice-to-haves, and really think carefully about not putting too much in the must-have list, or the other way around, because what you're going to do now is take your stack of 100 resumes or submissions and your must-have list and do your first cull. And anybody that doesn't have all of the must-haves, because remember they're must-haves, goes in the bin. Or at least in the follow-up file for later in case you need somebody else.
Okay.
But really, you have to, especially if you get a lot of applications, and I've seen people have, in excess of 200 applications to certain job ads, you can't spend too much time reading through all these things, and it gets quite confusing as well, and fairly boring.
One thing I find when I'm recruiting is if it's got a spelling error in it, and I don't care how qualified you are, or if you use some kind of shortened SMS language,
yes.
you're gone. You are so gone.
Yep.
Okay, so you've screened them.
Yep.
You've got them down to your top lot.
Mm-hmm.
A phone interview, or what do you recommend as a next step? And this is going to be a bit of a surprise for some.
Yeah, look, there's a few different opinions about how to do this, but the process that my clients and I follow is to now do a pre-interview questionnaire. So before you get a Guernsey and you get the opportunity to sit in an interview, you have to fill out a questionnaire. Now, you've sent your resume in and everything as the applicant. It's a simple questionnaire. There's some questions in there to kind of give us a feel for who's actually applied for the role. But it's funny, some people just don't fill it out and send it back. They've applied for the job, but they don't fill out 5 simple questions and email it back.
And that's what I was going to say, how many questions are on there? And isn't it amazing that already, just by getting them to do a small thing, that you're going to wipe some applicants that aren't even interested without you having to spend time interviewing them and all that.
Exactly.
So what kind of percentage of people do you see generally wouldn't return the questionnaire?
Look, it sits at around 10 to 15%.
Okay,
just don't send that back.
So that's a lot.
So if you think about, you send that questionnaire out to, maybe 20 or 30 people, at least 2 or 3, maybe more sometimes, just don't send it back. Mm-hmm. So that's going to give you another screen. And look, if they can't send back a simple questionnaire, what do you think they're going to perform like as an employee who has to fill out job cards and timesheets and invoices and all that sort of stuff?
And even if they do it badly,
yep,
they send it back, but it's not really great and it's terrible grammar or whatever, you're ruling out a lot.
Or they haven't read the questions properly or whatever. So, again, it's just looking for the sort of people that are actually going to fit your criteria. And I know this sounds really harsh, and I do sound like a bit of a...
haven't heard anything yet. Wait till the next step.
Bat. But, you want the best person to join your team. If you were going to the Olympics, you wouldn't just take any old runner. You'd want the best, and so you'd put them through their paces.
And it's like that old saying, fire fast, hire slow. And
that's right.
I think this process really does weed out a lot. So
that's right.
Now we get to the next stage about doing an interview, and again, you have a unique and, brutal step in this, to be honest. And I've actually never been in one of these, but you actually do a group interview.
Group interview. And yes, that means everybody is sitting in the room at the same time, being asked similar questions or the same questions around the room in front of everybody else. And I've sat through these, back when I was a young guy in sales roles and that sort of stuff as a building rep. I've sat through group interviews as a 20-something-year-old guy, and I have to say I was crapping my pants. So that's not the aim, though. And certainly it seems a bit scary. We do tell the applicants beforehand in most cases that you will be sitting in a group interview. It's not meant to be scary. It's to, honestly, the biggest thing is to save the business owner time. And to our listeners, they're all busy, right?
Yep.
And they've all got heaps to do. And can you imagine if you've got 4 or 5 or 6 really good candidates and you have to sit through 4 or 5 or 6 hours of interview, that takes you a week to get through. And by the time you get to the last one, can you really remember how the first one answered that question and if they gave a better response than this one? And, you're a professional tradesperson. You're not a professional recruiter. So we want to make this as easy as possible.
Putting a whole lot of people in a room, as this is really their main interview, you don't really go on to do individual ones unless it gets just a couple, that you're putting them in a situation, but perhaps they're not showing them their best light because this is some nerve-wracking experience, or someone else takes their answer that they were going to do and now what are they going to say? And perhaps it's just putting them in a pressure situation, but are you maybe making it just a bit harder for the real stars to shine through?
Yeah, look, I guess that's a possibility. It's a risk, and maybe that happens sometimes. But I suppose my point of view on this is that when they actually join your business, they're going to be dealing with pressure situations, and they're going to be taken outside their comfort zone, maybe with an unhappy customer or another team member that they don't click with, or they didn't meet a deadline, or they've buggered something up, and, you know, as the business owner, you're not very happy about that. So we're looking for people who have the right personal qualities. And this is going to sound a bit hard, but honestly, if you can't sit in a room with 3 or 4 other guys or girls from your industry and answer a few questions about yourself, I don't know. Are you really going to be helping me grow my business, or are you just a dude turning up to collect a paycheck?
Sure. And so just talk a little bit about the process. So you have a few in a room. How many would you recommend in a group?
Oh, the most I've done is 20.
Wow.
Now, that was a big job and a big interview, but that was a pivotal role, management role in a bigger business. Mostly, you know,
So for a tradie,
4 to 6, sometimes 8. So
Right.
we're only talking, you know, 4 or 5 people sitting in a room. And honestly, the feeling is more like a bit of a chat. Once you warm people up and put them at ease a bit, we do just have a bit of a yarn around the table. They talk about themselves a bit. They tell us how they've responded to certain things in the past. And I might put up a sample of some of the interview questions for people in the show notes. So if you want to go grab some sample questions, head over to tradiesbusinessshow.com/32, and you can download the sample interview questions, and you can practice on your next unsuspecting victim.
So do you ask the same question to everyone in the room, or do you just ask a question, see who answers? How does that work?
Bit of a combination. I mean, basically give everybody the opportunity to kind of pitch themselves. So tell us a bit about who you are and why you're here. I mean, it's pretty simple stuff.
Yeah.
That they should know the answer to these questions. We're not asking them, you know, to solve complex algebra or anything like that
It's not
under
like
pressure.
some weird Google type questions that they ask.
No. It's
you know.
just regular stuff, and we're just looking for people who handle themselves well in that situation, can think on their feet, show a bit of leadership if that's required for the role. You know, if you're hiring an apprentice, then maybe those things aren't quite as important, so you're going to ask some different questions and be looking for different things. But if you're after a leading hand or a workshop supervisor or something, then, you know, we can expect these people to kind of handle themselves.
Yeah. And so, you know, is there what kind of animal would you be kind of questions? What animal would you be, Warwick?
What animal would I be?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I've had a few people give me some ideas. I didn't really like the responses very much. I don't ask that question. I've had clients choose to ask it over the years, and honestly, the response that people give is way less important than their creativity, or, again, it's those personal qualities. I don't care if they say pelican, because, you know, I like giving out bills to people. Like, that was a really bad dad joke, wasn't it?
Did that just come off the top of your head? Because we didn't prep that at all.
That stuff. Oh, hey, I got heaps more of that stuff. If you'd like to hear more of my really weird jokes, listeners, keep listening, because there'll be more coming. But, you know, I don't care what the response is so much as something like that. You know, he says, oh, pelican. And just make something up on the spot, because, hey, here's a guy or girl that can think on their feet and has a sense of humour and fits in, because at the end of the day, you're going to be working closely with these people. So you sort of would like to like them.
Yeah.
And get on with them. And if you don't click, I don't care how many tickets and how much experience you've got. If you sit there and give me monosyllabic grunting answers, this is going to be a hard relationship to have work over the next couple of years.
Sure. What about personality testing, profiling, all those woo-woo question type stuff? Where do you sit on those?
Used to do it. Used to do it all the time. Haven't so much with my mentoring clients in recent years. I suppose partly I feel like I get a reasonable read on people anyway. I mean, I've done hundreds and hundreds of those profiles on people and debriefed heaps of people over the years. So you start to be able to get a sense of what someone's profile might be.
If they don't have you in their presence, though, is it something that you recommend people look into?
Yeah, there's some good ones. There's one called DISC, D-I-S-C. It's just a 4-quadrant thing. There's some free online things you can find. There's paid services that don't cost very much for each test. I think they're good if you get down to maybe 2 or 3 people and it's really, really close, and you get to the end of your group interview and you think, you know what, it's those 2, but I just don't know how to pick between them, because they were both great. They're both perfect for the role. How the heck do I choose between Bill and Mary? And those personality profiles, they can be a bit of a double-edged sword, a little bit dangerous because we pigeonhole people. Because I've seen people with weird profile. Well, there's no such thing as a weird profile. Can we edit that out?
Nope.
If we leave the pelican joke in, we'll leave that in as well.
Yes.
But yeah, you just got to be careful. You don't go, they're a so-and-so, they're definitely not going to be good for this role, because it's not always true, but it can give you some insight into, this person might struggle with this aspect of the role because they, are inclined to have less attention to detail, for example.
Yep, sure.
So they can be helpful to maybe be that kind of, penalty shootout at the end.
Yep. And something I always find, often it comes down to when it's down to the last few, you tend to just get a gut feel sometimes. And you just, whenever I haven't listened to my gut when it comes to staff, it's been a disaster.
Yep.
So I now, it's my Bible.
I have a rule is you get it down to, it usually comes down to 2 or 3, right? And I say to my clients, so that's all good, go sleep on it. Seriously, sleep on it, 1 night at least, maybe 2 if you're still struggling. But yeah, see what comes up for you overnight, because, the old subconscious and the intuition, there's definitely something in it, and I think it can actually help. Just wake up and think, you know what, just something that guy said, I don't know, it just didn't sit right with me. So we're going to go with the other fella. Yeah,
and there's nothing wrong with giving them a trial as well, putting them a few hours on the tool or whatever the job is, and just seeing how they do fit and just how they
meet the rest
operate
of the team and
basic situations. And then you can also judge their skills as well.
Absolutely. And that's then much less stressful for a lot of people because they're not in that group environment, so they might be a bit more chatty, and you might find that they really settle straight in, or that they are still the same quiet, nervy person that really doesn't handle customers, and it's like, this isn't going to work out.
Yep. And what about checking references? I used to always have the opinion that no one's going to put a dud reference on your resume, so they're a waste of time, until I started ringing them. And about 50% when I used to ring go, there's something they'd say, you go, I'm not going to hire that person.
That's right.
So I actually find them extremely valuable now for the staff with my company. But how do you find them?
Yeah, definitely. Always ring references. Yeah. Always ring at least 2.
Believe how many people put a bad reference on there.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
They have to put them, and unfortunately for some people, maybe they didn't leave under great circumstances, or they kind of, that's the only reference they've got. So again, it sounds harsh, but as the business owner, you want the right person for the job, the right person to be on the bus in that seat. The last thing you want to do is find out later that, I don't know, they stole from the last employer, or, something happened, or there was an altercation at work and a punch up with somebody, whatever it is. But at least then you can make the decision knowing that happened and say, you know what, mate, I'm going to give you another go, or I don't care about that stuff, it doesn't matter for our business, or whatever.
Yep. Cool. So attracting the right staff, we look at getting a job description, putting that job ad together after you've written the description, advertising it, putting it out there, look at some basic screening, do the pre-interview questionnaire, which will weed out some people and also help you better insight without wasting time interviewing them, the group interview situation, and then just getting it down to the final couple and making a decision from there. Yeah,
and that process, I've seen it done in 2.5 weeks from start to finish, because there's just a flood of applications to that particular ad. There were some standout candidates, group interview, fitted in quickly, and inside of 4 weeks they had their new person starting, including notice period and everything. It doesn't always happen that way, so if you are looking to recruit, you should allow 4 to 6 weeks for the process.
What happens if you go through that process and you still haven't found the right person?
You go again.
Do it again.
Yep. But
where would you look to tweak? Is it the job ad that perhaps you would look at tweaking?
Go all the way back to the start. Job description and advertisement. Because, again, if you were trying to attract customers and you ran an ad in the paper or on Facebook, or you did, AdWords campaign or something, and you didn't get a response, you'd go back and change the ad, because you still need customers, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't run the ad for the job once, get nothing that you want, and go, oh, well, there's nobody out there. Because if you did that with customers, well, you'd shut the doors and go to Centrelink. So, go and adjust the ad and go again. Right. Because you obviously need a person. Otherwise, you wouldn't run the ad in the first place. So don't give up on that. And it is a bit of work. It's something I think tradies in particular, you guys need to get better at this, is attracting and retaining good team, because it is such a critical part of growing a business and getting off the tools, as we talk about, Michaela.
That's it. And I'm sure we'll talk about in another episode retaining. Once you get that good staff, how do you build a culture that rewards and makes them grow and motivates them?
Definitely.
So if you'd like to find out more about today's episode, head to tradiesbusinessshow.com/32 and we'll have some sample group interview questions there for you to have a look at. And also while you're there, make sure to check out our show sponsor MyOb with MyOb Pay Direct. That's their mobile payment solution. So if you want to get paid on the job as soon as it's done and improve your cash flow, head to tradiesbusinessshow.com/MYOB to find out more.
And to make sure you never miss an episode, go to iTunes, hit subscribe, and if you liked today's episode, go tell us by leaving a review on iTunes if you maybe didn't like it or disagreed with my stance on some of this stuff. Feel free to tell us. We love feedback, and hopefully we'll be reading some more reviews out real soon and getting some sort of funky prize or something out there.
We keep saying
people.
that. We better actually do something about
We better
that.
get a funky prize and we stop talking about it. Take our own medicine. Anyway, thanks for listening, team.
Bye for now.
Hooroo.
You've been listening to the Tradies Business Show with Warwick Bidwell and Michaela Clark. Want to get off the tools and into true business ownership? Find out how at tradiesbusinessshow.com.